The upset alert meter is really, really pinging for week 11. I'm concerned / nervous / outright scared for some of you. Let's start in Austin. Florida, with a suddenly safe Billy Napier, is going to Texas. Texas is favored by 21.5. DJ Lagway, a multi-million-dollar question, will he play? He has practiced some, and yet still I would refer to him as very questionable for this game. We thought his season was over last week, so it's good that he's even able to be on the injury report. If he doesn't play, they're not winning this game. They won't be competitive in this game. If he is playing, it's worth watching, I think. He's practiced in a limited fashion this week. This game's kind of up to Texas to me. I'm going to put a 5 on the upset alert concern meter. It's up to Texas how this plays out. Before they went into their bye week, Quinn Ewers had back-to-back multiple turnover games. He had been sacked 9 times in the last 2 games. Florida ran the ball okay versus Georgia, and by okay, I mean they leaned on it heavily, and they were only like 3 yards per carry, but they didn't get shut down. However, Texas is number 3 in the country in run defense. I don't plan on Florida being able to run the ball here, and so Lagway or not, but especially without Lagway, this should be in the bag. It is on Texas's terms. Texas will decide how this game goes. I'm going to put a 5 on it only because the athletic profile overall of that Florida team is good enough to where if Texas gives them an opening, it could be like that Vandy game. Could be much closer than any expert out there in Vegas expects it to be. Miami's going to Atlanta this Saturday to play Georgia Tech. Miami's favored by 10.5. Haynes King, a game-time decision right now for Georgia Tech. Kind of feel the same way here. Need the starter for the underdog to play at quarterback for him to have a good shot. Georgia Tech is off a bye. Georgia Tech is a relatively balanced offense, probably overall the most effective offense that Miami will have faced, I'd say, since the Louisville game. And that was back and forth. Miami ends up winning the game. But Georgia Tech can challenge you there. I love the competitive profile of Georgia Tech more than anything. Georgia Tech, stat sheet-wise, they measure up here, they don't measure up there. There's a lot of intangibles and unmeasurables that I really like about Georgia Tech. So we've seen them the last 2 times. They had 2 losses against Notre Dame and Virginia Tech. There's no reason for the nation to be paying attention to this game. And yet I'm going to pay attention anyway. Miami has allowed some inferior opponents to hang with them before pulling away late. So maybe that's how this game goes. But that just puts you in a high variance position to where if you turn the ball over a couple of times, bad things can happen. So I'm going to put a 7 on the upset alert concern meter here. Miami overall is a 10.5 point favorite. Let's look up in Bloomington, Indiana. Now, I want to say this slowly because I always imagine an August version of myself listening to a present-day version of myself. And if I were to tell myself that Michigan was going to Indiana and the spread was 13.5, I would say Michigan as a 2-touchdown favorite on the road in Indiana. Indiana must have had a fairly decent year, right? Well, it is actually Indiana that is the 13.5 point favorite here, at which point the August version of me would have its head explode. And then we would get janitorial in here to clean it up, and Jesse would probably do the show. But that's where we are. That is college football in November 2024. And Indiana should be able to throw the ball fairly consistently in this game. Can Michigan keep up? I don't know. I don't think so. I still am not used to this new normal. I'm still not used to looking at these matchups where I know the roster at Michigan should outclass the roster at Indiana. I know that. Kurt Cignetti knows that. Now, he doesn't care, but even he knows that. He's watched this game longer than any of us mostly have. And I can't get used to not only thinking that Indiana will beat Michigan, I'm asking how comfortably can they do it. I'm not used to that yet. Maybe I should get used to it. I'm putting a 5 on the upset alert concern meter here, only because I have to be able to see you trading scores with Indiana to keep up, and I have trouble seeing Michigan do it. Crazier things have happened. Again, just a wild statement to be coming out of one's mouth. Crazier things have happened than Michigan beating Indiana. But that's where we are. Next up, this is one of the more disappointing games that I will have talked about all year. Clemson at Virginia Tech. Clemson's a 5.5 point favorite. I'm calling this the Disappointment Bowl. I had this thing circled since the spring. I wanted to be at this game. It was my shot to go to a game at Lane Stadium, and now both of them lost last week. All the shine got taken off of it from a national perspective, and it's not that I'm sad to be going to Baton Rouge, far from it, but I've been to an LSU game before, plenty of them. I've never been to a Virginia Tech game. Who knows, whomst amongst us knows what the future holds. But as for this game, 8.5, I got no clue what to expect from Clemson. They're laying 5.5 here. It was up near 10 last week before they lost. Now, Virginia Tech lost as well. They lost without Kyron Drones. He's been practicing at quarterback this week. We are cautiously optimistic that he plays. Virginia Tech is 83rd versus the run. So, on the surface, Phil Maffa game, right? It's a game where Clemson can go on the road, remove a lot of the variance from the equation, just run the ball, play action pass, get out of there with a nice solid win, if not a comfortable win. However, this is where the crowbar gets thrown in the bicycle spokes. Because I am fresh off watching Louisville average 7.8 yards per carry against Clemson. Dirty little secret, Clemson can be run on. And Virginia Tech can do a half-decent job of that. And so if Kyron Drones is back and Virginia Tech starts winning on third downs, they stay ahead of the chains, and then home field sinks its teeth into Clemson, because this is the spot for Virginia Tech. This is the moment for Brent Pry and his staff to sort of get their season-defining signature win. The competitive resolve of each team is really what's in question here. Not that they don't have it. Whoever practices more of it in this game, that's ultimately what decides this. I've got an 8.5 on this. I am very, very leery of this game for Clemson. I just don't think they're that much better. I think the JP poll lied to us last week, so I'm keeping a close eye on this one. And then there's the next game, which, hey, I also had this one circled in the preseason. Florida State at Notre Dame. You know, I had the audacity in the spring when we talked about this game to wonder how much FSU may be favored by here. We were trying to figure out if they'd be a favorite in all 12 of their games. And this one we looked at and we said, oh, they'll probably be favored. But Notre Dame, if they're plucky now, it could be close. Yeah, Notre Dame's favored by 25.5. Lay $1 million. I want to throw up just talking about this game. There is someone walking around the building today who shall remain nameless for HR purposes, who referred to Florida State as a dead body. The only question is, does the body have a spine? And that was their prediction on this game. That will determine whether Florida State covers or just gets trounced by 40. I'm going to go with the latter. I have no expectation for Florida State. I'm done with them for the year. So I think Notre Dame is going to, pad their resume. This isn't really a resume game. I got a 1 on the upset alert concern scale. I will give you every bit of rat poison you could ever hope to consume at Notre Dame. I will give you every bit of fuel that you could ever hope to consume. I don't think that Florida State's gas tank is even accepting fuel at this point. It just overflows when you pull the handle. I've never respected a team less than I do this year's Florida State team. Well, maybe somewhere along the road, but it's hard to remember that. So give me a 1 on the upset alert concern scale. It will not happen. However, stats and info, late arriving paper popper of a stat, let's not forget, Marcus Freeman has lost twice as a 20-plus point favorite recently. So, I just want to have said it. I don't believe it matters in this game, but I want to have said it. And lastly, at least as it's related to upsets, you know who Penn State plays Saturday? Anybody? They play Washington. Kind of a random game, right? It's the whiteout game. There you go, 1 week too late. It's the whiteout game. What if I told you that there's a team playing in this game that has the number 2 pass defense in the country? And you would say, of course, good for Penn State. They got those 2 portal corners, and they've been really good at locking down the passing game. And I would say, no, Washington is the defense that is number 2 in the country against the pass. And you'd go, oh, well, I guess that means the vertical passing game probably is not there for Penn State again this week, which means they need to run the ball to win, and that means we need to lean on Katron Allen and Nick Singleton. And, oh boy, What's the line on the game, Josh? Well, Penn State's favored by 13.5. The model, for the record, thinks they'll cover. I don't share that much enthusiasm because I just have this image in my head of Will Rogers, if given enough time here, hanging around in this game, and Washington hanging around in this game. I've got a 6 on the upset alert concern scale. Now, these are the games James Franklin wins. I'm not suggesting he won't, but the number on this is 13.5. So that's a big number, but this is an outright upset segment. This is not about covering. Wouldn't be the wildest thing we've ever seen. I don't think it'll happen, but I'm putting a 6 on it, and I will be very much paying attention to that regardless.